Hey Bernie, Tim Hendren, your mayor here with another Mayor's Minute. A couple of updates about what's going on in our community in general and a couple of things from last night's city council meeting. First off, I just want to address COVID and what's going on across the country right now. Obviously, it's a headline everywhere. One thing I want to just assure you of, there's a lot of vaccine that's available in our local community. I've got an email from Captain Perez, our emergency management coordinator here in town. He's checked with every one of the places in town that are given shots, have been given shots, and they all have plenty of vaccine. So what we see from the data continues to say the folks that are being hospitalized, 97% of them still are not vaccinated. That's the problem. I encourage all of you to get the vaccine because it's available and it's something that will keep you out of the hospital if you get this variant of COVID. A couple things from last night's city council meeting. One, I just want to let everybody know that there's going to be some very massive road work being done in the Bentwood subdivision starting Saturday. And it's going to be done in a way that's not the old chip and seal, but this is going to shut down sections of the road. For those of you in Bentwood, there's plenty of signs out there telling you what's happening there. There was a great award that was given last night to the city of Boerne from the Texas Floodplain Management Association. They are recognizing Boerne as kind of best in class in the state for what we've done in terms of floodplain management. It all ties back to the work that has gone into our Unified Development Code. But they're looking at Boerne as the model city now for the entire state on responsible management inside floodplain areas and doing far more than is required at a minimum level by the federal government. Just really impressive what's happened in terms of that recognition. One last item, I wanted to have a special guest today with us. So we have Commissioner Tim Bamwolf, who is the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and thanks for being here this morning, Tim, for the Mayor's Minute.
Thank you.
I thought maybe we could address shoreline. It's not a topic that's on everybody's mind every day, but maybe we could just talk a little bit about shoreline.
Well, thank you. As you know, we had a meeting out there last week on site with the shoreline folks, the developer K&B, and their people that are running that development. Thanks to you for setting that up, by the way. And they were very forthright in talking about their measures taken to preserve water quality and water detention. I mean, this is something that's been an ongoing thing. The city has monitored this ever since the get-go. I know you've been involved and Councilman Willison's been involved. Last week, Commissioner Anzalito joined us for our visit with the K&B folks, but we're monitoring their situation and their project very closely, as you know.
Ty Willison and I have been staying in close contact with the KB Homes folks over the last year, frankly. We had some great conversations with them last week, and as they took us through what they've done with the current construction, probably the thing that struck me the most is their willingness to abide by the new Unified Development Code and all the LID standards that was in there.
Well, you're exactly right. They've agreed to comply with our 1.66 inches waterfall stormwater standard, which essentially means that for the first 1.66 inches of rainfall that comes on the property that comes to Boerne, they're going to capture all of that in their detention ponds. And that 1.66 inch number is just not pulled out of the hat, as you know. That's something that complies with the EPA standard, which is to capture 90% of all rainfall for water quality purposes. And so the 1.66 inches means that 90% or less of rainfall in Boerne, in Kendall County, is going to be 1.66 inches. Very rarely, 10% of our rainfall amounts actually exceed that. So 90% of all rain, when it falls, typically in Kendall County, will be captured by their detention facilities.
Yeah, I was pleased to see that they're willing to, again, they don't have to abide by the UDC and the LID standards in there, but they've agreed to do that, which that's been part of the conversations I know I've been having with them over the past year. And I'm thankful that they're willing to do that because I think they're being responsible within our community. I think in their conversation with P&Z the other night, they also talked about the manner in which they're going to start developing on the part of that area that slopes toward the lake. Maybe we can just shed a little light on what they are setting out as their objective and a standard that they're trying to achieve.
Well, that is really the next step. As you know, they've been developing on the downward slope opposite the lake. Now parcels 6 and 7, phases 6 and 7 will drain towards the lake. And I think that's the most the folks have concerns about is those parcels that drain towards the lake. We hear from the folks out there a lot about that, and we're monitoring that. Thanks to you, again, getting back to the LID standard, the low impact development standard, the 1.66 inches, which is very important because of your prodding and your persistence. And so that's 3 times the standard, actually, they would have had to comply with under our old regulations, which were in effect at the time this project started. But in terms of phases 6 and 7, you're right. But what they've done is they've agreed to back off the development at least 300 feet from the waterfront that abuts Boerne Town Lake, And then each lot that abuts that 300-foot setback will have a 20-foot setback, if you will, 20-foot easement almost.
They told us when we were visiting with them last week, and they also said Troy Dorman, who's their engineer, who was the city's engineer when we developed our LID standards, he said they're going to put in place their detention ponds and get those established before they actually do the construction of the housing, because they want to make sure that those detention ponds are in place, that they're established, that the vegetation starts to mature, so that if they have rain while they're going through the construction, that this becomes a new best practice to get those put in place before. I know in the current development that they have, they did admit that some of the silt fencing did have failures when we had these massive rains. To me, that's another indication that they want to do what's right for the community. They aren't coming in as fly-by-night folks. They bought the property, they have property rights. But I don't know, your thoughts on what you heard from Troy Dorman the other night as they talk about establishing a baseline for best practices.
We've invited Troy to come on a regular basis to update us on what K&B is doing out there with shoreline and the water quality and water protection measures. And so we're going to keep monitoring. It's almost like the phrase that President Reagan used years ago, trust but verify. We trust what they're telling us, but we're going to monitor and verify that, in fact, they're still doing what they said they would do. With respect to the water detention in advance of construction, I mean, we're hoping that the shoreline development, the KB development out at Shoreline, will be a model for how you do future development, not only in Bernie and Kendall County, adjacent to important water features like Bernietown Lake, but elsewhere across the state and across the country. The water quality measures that are being taken out there, I think, are extraordinary. We just need to be sure that they actually do them and do them in a timely manner as they've promised.
Yeah, great. Tim, I want to thank you for being here this morning with me. Look, this isn't a pitch to say everything that KB Homes is doing is perfect. It's really an indication that our planning and zoning commissioners and city council, we are actually actively engaged with that development as it continues to go forward. And we want to make sure that they do the right things, given that they are building that whole property out there. So more to come on that in the future, but wanted you all to know that we are staying in close contact with what's going on in that development really on a weekly basis. That's all for now, Bernie. Have a great week.